Hey everybody, for those of you who know me, it probably won't come as a surprise that I'm a giant music and movie buff. So for about the past month, I've been compiling songs for what would become my Guardians of the Galaxy 3 soundtrack. I obviously don't have any inside information and know as much about this movie as the next person, so any scenario, situations, or songs that I use for those situations are completely speculation as to what I think could possibly happen in the next Guardians film. I have a lot of songs on here, so if you don't like one, then just keep listening. Maybe you'll find even more you do like. There was also a lot to consider, like where Endgame left the Guardians and the fact that this movie will be released after the next Thor film, so I don't have any Thor themes in here. Also, the unspoken rule that I followed is that there shouldn't be music that was released after Quill was taken in 1988. So, with all that in mind, I really hope you enjoy what I've got. So let's get started. So for my opening theme, I decided that I wanted something not quite as energetic as Rubber Band Man from Infinity War, or as fun as Mr. Blue Sky from Guardians 2. This song had to fit the tone Endgame left us with, slightly sad, reminiscent, but cautiously excited for what's to come. So my opening theme would be Heroes by David Bowie. I know a David Bowie song has already been used in the Guardians films, but I haven't heard anything about reusing artists as a rule in these films. So I have two instances where this happens in my list. I like to think of them as potential callbacks to past Guardians films or somewhat removed motifs, but I digress. So I figured I could start with the camera panning throughout the Milano while all the Guardians finally have a moment to think about what had happened. We might even get the chance to see their individual rooms on the ship for the first time, and maybe the last one we see is Quill, and he's sitting there thinking about Gamora, and maybe Nebula walks in, and that's when we find out the source of the music is his stereo. This song also has potential to show up in various heroic points throughout this film, but this would be its main use. Up next we have Rocket's theme. Now it seems as though from what we know, Rocket is going to have his love interest in this film, her name being Lila, who's an anthropomorphic otter. So with things heating up with Rocket and the possibility of him having his own B-plot love story, I chose Hungry Like the Wolf by Duran Duran as my theme for Rocket. So listen, I get it. He's not a wolf, but it's kind of the ongoing joke with Rocket, isn't it? Not only does he not know what he is, but it seems like most people don't realize what he is. My thought is that perhaps Lila and Rocket come to realize that they're both the same. But before that, something could happen, like maybe the two are fighting over something and she could refer to him as Baby Wolf. And from there on, it can become her cute nickname for Rocket, and one he isn't upset to have. This also makes for a great Rocket action scene. I was somewhat reminded of this scene from the original Guardians movie when thinking of this song.
You need my what?
Speaking of love, what about the most likely inevitable scene where Quill and Gamora see each other again for the first time? For this, I have Touch Me by The Doors. Allow me to paint a picture here for you. Quill runs into a bar where he's heard tell that Gamora has been staying. When he walks in, the two lock eyes and this part of the song starts. I'm gonna love you. Gamora slowly walks over to Quill, who is in an absolute daze over seeing his soulmate again, but before things get too mushy, don't forget that this Gamora has no memories of this man and punches him right in the face as the song climaxes. And this could actually start a bar fight, assuming her punch knocks Quill into someone else. So what about Gamora's theme? Well, I think I have something interesting for that. Magic Man by Heart.
Oh, late night so long ago, when I was not so strong, you know.
With this song, I figured it could have two main uses, one being the first verse. I figured this could be the first interaction Quill and Gamora have in the film, where Quill is trying to win Gamora back with his apparent, charm? In the scene, the song would actually be coming from Quill's perspective of how he thinks Gamora sees him. And obviously, especially this Gamora is most likely going to see Quill as much more of a pest than the original did. So maybe the song could end abruptly at the end of the first verse as Gamora grabs Quill by the throat and throws him to the ground.
Try to understand. I'm a magic man.
The other use would be Gamora's actual theme. There's a lot of great instrumental parts of this song that would be great background settings, while Gamora reminds us all that she's still a badass assassin raised by the most evil man in the universe. Speaking of badassedness, what would the Guardians movie be without a great general fighting song? For that, I have Frankenstein by the Edgar Winter Group. So this has a lot of great parts that could be used for a lot of great fighting scenes, but instead of me babbling on about it, why don't we show you what we mean? Okay, so for this one I didn't have much to go on, considering we have no clue what the villain is going to be for this film, but with that in mind, I think it's safe to say that they're going to be looking for planetary or galactic rule, which, oh hey, look at that! The galaxy is in the Guardians' jurisdiction. So with that in mind, I picked Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. I mean, seriously, after Ronan, Ego, and then Thanos, it must really start to feel like that's the case. And it could even be mentioned in the movie where Quill is like,
"Man, I'm really starting to understand that Tears for Fears song."
"Most tear from fear, Quill. What is there to understand?"
No, you big dummy. Tears for Fears is a band, and man, did they know what they were talking about.
And then the song could start to play. It's a feel-good song I think most people would enjoy, and it'd be a classic song that doesn't fit a serious scene moment. This next one is pretty cool, if I do say so myself. I hope you all like it. So, during Infinity War, there's some character development that the audience really enjoyed between Star-Lord and Iron Man, and I think by the end, Star-Lord understood what a good man Iron Man was and had newfound respect for him. There's one scene from Infinity War that I thought would be a perfect way to tie in the trauma he just went through on Earth, and it's this one.
Don't encourage this, all right? We're getting no help from Flash Gordon here.
Flash Gordon? By the way, that's a compliment. Don't forget, I'm half human, so that 50% of me that's stupid, that's 100% you.
So I want to put in the Flash Gordon theme from Flash Gordon. The way I figured this song could fit in would be a scene where a bad guy is giving Quill some lip, so Quill says,
"I'm gonna kick your ass the way Flash Gordon kicked Ming's."
And then the bad guy could be like, "Who's Flash Gordon?" And Star-Lord would say,
"He's a brave hero from Terra, and someone once said that I remind them of him."
Or something like that. And then the theme plays. It's a small reference that most people might miss, but even without the reference, it'd make for a funny moment. For this one, I have Another One Bites the Dust by Queen. But hold on, I know exactly what you're thinking. You're thinking,
But Chris, Queen also made the Flash Gordon soundtrack, so that would be two songs from the same band in the same Guardians movie, and that's never been done before.
and to that I say, I know, I get it. But I mean, come on. A Queen song and the Flash Gordon soundtrack are two different things to me. To explain that, simply put, when listening to Flash Gordon's song from the soundtrack, in this context, the viewer/listener is thinking of Flash Gordon, where with the Queen song, they're either focused on the scene or thinking of Queen, and to a further extent, Freddie Mercury. And if that isn't enough for you, then okay. The good news is, the situation that I have for this song is highly unlikely, so it probably wouldn't make it. But in case it does, let me show you what I'd do with this song. So assuming not every planet in the galaxy can support half the population resurfacing instantly after 5 years, there's probably a small group of people who see what Thanos was trying to accomplish and decide they agree with his actions. So the Guardians could run into these Thanos supporters and maybe even be the ones to tell them he's dead and how he died, and this could be the song that plays during that fight. A potential C-plot for this movie could be Nebula. One thing I was anticipating in Endgame was Nebula's death after she killed her past self. I figured that perhaps she'd stay behind due to her maybe fading in and out of reality now that the effects of her self-sacrifice from Endgame are taking effect. And during this scene, maybe there could be Once in a Lifetime by the Talking Heads playing in the background on Quill Stereo. Now, this is a weird choice for a possible death scene / situation, but my thought is perhaps Groot stays behind with Nebula and Nebula desperately wants to shut it off, but this is Groot's favorite song. So he refuses to let her even though she's going through so much pain and misery, and maybe she could even be like,
I can't believe I'm going to die with this idiot in this unlistenable song.
And a potential D-plot for this film could be the possible romance between Drax and Mantis. These two have an awkward acquaintance so far, but I feel like there's something between the two of them, even if they don't realize it yet. So if these two are going to fall in love, I'd have it be to the tune of Crimson and Clover by Tommy James and the Shondells. It's a very intimate song, which is a quality the two of those characters lack, so I feel like it really tied the scene together, man.
Crimson and clover.
And to what jam will our heroes make their daring escape to? We Gotta Get Out of This Place by the Animals. One thing I loved about Guardians 2 was Yondu's theme. It was a song that didn't quite fit the typical party song vibe that these movies are known to have, but I found it refreshing. That's something I'd hope to achieve with this song, the premise being that all the Guardians now have something or someone to live for.
We gotta get out of this place. If it's the last thing we ever do, we gotta get out of this place. 'Cause girl, there's a better life for me and you.
And for our ending theme, I picked Build Me Up, Buttercup by the Foundations. This would be reminiscent of Ain't No Mountain High Enough from the first film, just a feel-good ending that could lead us into the credits. And for the second song in the credits, I figured we could use what I've been referring to as the trailer / main theme. This is the song used for all the promotional stuff, and it'd show up in the movie a few times, and it's the song that makes everybody think of the film, like, you know, Hooked on a Feeling from Guardians 1, or Fox on the Run from Guardians 2. For this, I choose Ballroom Blitz by Sweet.
Oh, yeah! It's like lightning. Everybody was frightening. And the music was soothing. And they all started grooving. And the man at the back said, everyone attack. And it turned into a ballroom blitz. And the girl in the corner said, boy, I want the money. It'll turn into a ballroom blitz. Ballroom blitz. Ballroom blitz.
And for the last song in the end credits, I choose I'd Love to Change the World by 10 Years After. And this song could go right into the after the credit scene and maybe even be in it. It could be the Guardians hanging out and listening to the song, and then they get an incoming call. When they answer, it's Nick Fury, and that could be it. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed. I have a lot of situational concepts here, and as I said, I have no information as to what will actually happen, so we'll just have to wait and see, but I put a lot of hard work into this, and as I said, I'm a huge fan and aspiring musician and composer myself. Oh, also, I know that was a lot of songs, but hey, Quill's got a Zune now, so who knows what he could be listening to. I'd like to thank one of my very best friends and partner on this channel, Anthony, aka Thunder, and my loving and supporting girlfriend Pauline for helping me with this list. That's it for me. Thanks again for watching.